Okay, my name is Philip Kusha, and today's date is Wednesday, May 25th, and the time is 8:59. Also in the room is FBI agent
James Eagle Eye, FBI San Antonio Division.
Chief, when you got
Sir.
there,
Yes,
did
sir.
you hear any gunshot?
Yes, sir. Oh, plenty. As we approached, of course, there was some gunfire coming out, and I know it was coming out through the walls, some in our direction. And obviously I backed off and started taking cover.
There were a lot of failures that day.
19 children killed, along with 2 teachers, the second deadliest school shooting in U.S. history.
We expect our police officers to run toward the danger. And we now know that's not what happened.
It was treated as a barricaded subject, and instead it should have been treated as an active shooter. That's plain and simple.
When it came to the moment of truth, they failed.
He's in the class.
The last thing you expect to hear is that 77 minutes went by before anyone breached that classroom.
And you're right, we're going to get scrutinized. I'm expecting that.
An abject failure is being kind.
You had children calling on their cell phone, asking for help.
I'm in classroom 1012. Please hurry. There's a lot of dead bodies. Please. Help. I want to die.
Why didn't we just barrel through bricks and mortar and everything else to be able to get to her and all those kids that were in there?
Sir, this is Pete with School District Police. Can you please talk to me?
Every minute potentially cost a life.
It was an ongoing criminal investigation to evaluate every police officer for the criminal culpability and hold them accountable.
When my niece was in that classroom, dying, waiting for you to help, where were you?
Just because you're a law enforcement officer doesn't mean that you can't be criminally culpable in a situation like this, period.
This is not something that could happen in Uvalde, but not in our own communities. And the most important thing is, what can we do going forward?
May 24th, 2022, in Uvalde, Texas, Robb Elementary School is celebrating a year of good grades and hard work.
Citizenship recognition goes to Darian Ojeda and Alexandra Rubio.
It was an end-of-the-year award ceremony, just like any other year.
AV Honor Roll, Aiden Echevarria, Jose Flores.
Proud parents Gloria and Javier Cáceres are there to support their daughter, 9-year-old Jackie, the youngest of 3 children.
She came in and I started waving at her and blowing her kisses and Daddy loves you. And she's doing this number and embarrassed.
When the ceremony is over, Gloria and Javier take a photo of Jackie on the far left with her friends.
So I say bye and I blew her a kiss.
The 4th graders, gleeful at the thought of summer break approaching, return to their classrooms. Teacher Arnie Reyes puts on a movie, a reward for his students as the school year winds down.
It was going to be a good day.
But then suddenly, on that clear blue Texas day, a truck crashes outside the school. It's captured by security cameras across the street, obtained by ABC News. One of thousands of pieces of digital evidence later collected by investigators.
Yes, there was just an accident right here behind Robb's school. They ran into the ditch. It's a pickup truck.
Amy Marin, a school speech specialist seen here on surveillance camera, had just gone outside where she witnesses the crash.
I was running to him to help him.
You were worried about him?
My first thought was somebody had a heart attack.
But Amy, who today still suffers from nearly constant PTSD-induced tremors, realizes within seconds that the single-vehicle crash looks much more sinister.
Oh my God, they're running. I don't know why. Oh my God, he ought to die.
Security footage then captures the driver of that pickup truck walking away from the crash. He heads directly toward Robb Elementary.
He's up in the schoolyard, ma'am. He just jumped over the fence. He's running toward the school.
He's wearing black. Please, hurry.
Yes, sir. We have multiple units heading out that way.
Good shots at Robb Elementary. Good shot.
I'm telling the operator that he's shooting.
Miss Amy, how many shots were fired?
Several. I think he's on campus.
Okay, ma'am. He's on campus?
Oh, my God.
The gunman continues toward the school, shooting as he gets closer.
What is that? Hey, what is that?
My students were asking me, what's going on? What's that noise? Like, it couldn't be.
A rock that staff sometimes use to prop the exterior school door open is holding it ajar, and Amy Marin runs over.
You see me kick the rock and pull the door.
You did not leave it open?
No.
What Amy doesn't know, which investigators would later uncover, is that the door is not set to lock automatically, as it should have been. So despite her efforts, the door doesn't lock and could not have been locked from the inside. An alert goes out to the school faculty through Raptor, an emergency alert system that places the school on lockdown. A minute later, hallway cameras capture the gunman entering the school through that door, that unlocked door. ABC News is not airing the video. This is a screen grab.
Okay, ma'am. He went inside the building?
Oh, my God.
He made it into the building, guys.
A boy leaves the bathroom to return to his classroom when he sees the attacker and narrowly escapes. Then the shooter enters adjoining classrooms, 111 and 112.
I look at the wall, and the wall's like pieces falling off the wall, and that's when I realized that the loud bangs is a gun.
He's inside the school shooting at the kids!
In just 3 minutes, the gunman fires more than 100 rounds.
That's when he shot my arm. I just remember just falling to the ground, and then he came up to the front and shot my kids after that.
Down the hall, Amy Marin is hiding under a counter, still on with 911.
I'm asking the operator, where are the cops? Where are the cops?
Oh, shots fired! 701. Get inside! Go, go, go! Shot in the head.
About 2 minutes later, officers arrive. 2 groups of officers enter the building from different directions. On the north side, 3 Uvalde police officers make entry through the same door as the shooter. Among them, the commander of the city police SWAT team. On the south side, 2 Uvalde police officers enter, followed by Uvalde School District Police Chief Pete Arredondo and one of his officers. Chief Arredondo later recounts entering the school to investigators.
A cloud of smoke. As we approached, of course, there was some gunfire coming out, and I know it was coming out through the walls, some in our direction.
Shooting is still heard coming from the classroom. Hallway cameras show officers approach rooms 111 and 112. The attacker behind a closed door fires at the officers. 2 of them sustain grazing wounds. They retreat. The initial chance to confront the shooter in that classroom, gone. The other officers also come under fire.
Take cover, guys.
Seconds later, the acting Uvalde City Police Chief that day, Lieutenant Mariano Vargas, is also at the school, seen here in that hallway. At this point, no officer fires at the gunman, and after officers are inside the school, the gunman fires approximately 16 additional rounds over the next 5 minutes.
This is an emergency right now. I'm inside the building. I'm inside the building with this man.
Chief Arredondo later said he dropped his radios before entering the building because he thought they would slow him down. He calls a police landline from his cell phone.
He has an AR-15. He shot a whole bunch of times.
While investigators point to many failures this day, they tell ABC News that these moments, soon after School Police Chief Arredondo arrives, are especially crucial.
Initially, it was reported that this was a barricaded subject, but this wasn't a hostage situation. This was not a barricaded subject. It was, in fact, an active shooter.
Chief Arredondo later said he thought the attacker was cornered. Investigators say he failed to recognize the attack as an active shooter in those pivotal moments.
An active shooter is very different.
They have no intention of peacefully surrendering. Their goal is to kill as many people as possible.
Clearly, the failure right at the beginning was the inability of the officers on the scene to continue to engage the subject till he was neutralized, period. If you don't immediately confront that active shooter, lives are going to be lost.
It's a place where you have to step up, put your own life on the line, and that starts at the top.
And according to a school district active shooter plan, written in part by Chief Arredondo himself, he was the officer at the top, the one who was to assume leadership and command in the event of an active shooter.
This event took place in a school. It fell under the jurisdictional authority of the school police. The chief of the school police was on scene.
There's no question about it that he was the on-scene commander in the hallway.
Chief Arredondo would later tell investigators he did not see himself as the commander that day. At this point, word of the attack at Robb Elementary is starting to spread throughout Uvalde, a small community of 15,000 people. After attending the award ceremony that morning, Gloria Cáceres is at her job as a nurse when she gets a text from a friend.
She said there's a shooter at Robb. So that's exactly where I go, is I went straight to Robb.
Your heart must have been racing.
It was.
The time is about 11:45 a.m., and there are 18 officers in the building, according to records reviewed by ABC News. 12 minutes since the attacker entered the school.
Costume either 111 or 112. But Chief is making contact with him, right?
Who? No one's made contact with him.
And now police are hunting for keys to the classroom.
Bro, anybody with a master key? Pete's asking. Master key. I don't have a master key. I don't have a key. Mike, do you have a master key to the office? To the rock?
While no officer has attempted to open any door into the classroom with the shooter, precious time is wasted searching for those keys.
He's asking for a master key inside.
Officers are now responding to the school from all law enforcement agencies, including Border Patrol and the Texas Department of Public Safety.
So anyone showing up at the scene, it's very difficult to try to process in your mind that this is still an active shooter when you have people waiting around, because you don't wait around in an active shooter situation.
Tell him to get out of the hallway. Wait, Chief is in there. Chief's in charge right now. Hold on.
Anxious parents are gathering outside the school, desperate for information. Gloria and Javier Cáceres, seen here in the red shirt, are right there, searching for their daughter, Jackie.
Police, of course, trying to hold people back.
What did they tell you?
We don't know what's going on. Confused, they're all confused themselves.
Inside, Chief Arredondo makes the decision to evacuate children from neighboring classrooms.
There's probably going to be some deceased in there, but we don't need any more from out here. So I called out and I said, get these kids out.
Watch out the window.
But rescuing those children in neighboring classrooms before stopping the gunman goes against active shooter training, according to law enforcement officials.
We've learned that lesson, from Columbine, and the doctrine since then has been in an active shooter situation is to immediately locate the subject, isolate him, and neutralize him.
But instead of confronting the shooter, Chief Arredondo tries to negotiate with the attacker.
Individual in room 111, 112. Clear. Room's clear. This is Arredondo. Jack, this is Arredondo, sir. Can you please put your firearm down?
As other officers continue evacuating children from other classrooms.
Okay, room's clear.
At this point, kids are coming out, and I'm not seeing my daughter come out.
The time is now 12 p.m., 27 minutes after the attacker entered the school. There are 28 officers in the building, And while children are evacuated from other classrooms, one 10-year-old girl calls 911 from inside a classroom under attack.
Uvalde County 911. Can you tell me your name?
Over a series of phone calls, 10-year-old Chloe Torres pleads for help.
Please hurry. There's a lot of dead bodies.
Chloe, whose family knows we're broadcasting portions of her 911 calls and want them to be heard publicly, tells the operator where she is, one of the 2 rooms the gunman has entered.
Be quiet. I am on Cody, but because of them, nobody listening to me. I know how to handle these situations. My dad taught me when I was a little girl. Just send help. One of my teachers are still alive, but they're shot.
Okay, please. Someone's trying to get to you. Chloe, okay?
Please, I can't wait. I can't do it like that.
Stay quiet, Chloe. How many people are in there that are alive with you?
I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that 6 people? 7, 8.
The 911 operator relays Chloe's information on the police radio.
Uvalde to any unit you like to any unit, just advising we do have a child on the line. It's going to be room 12.
Go ahead with that child's information relay.
The child is advising he is in the room full of victims at this moment.
That should have immediately signaled a different course of action.
But the communication system, both radios and Wi-Fi, are not strong and often not working at all.
Information not getting back to the decision makers in those hallways.
And there was no command post set up to centralize information. No one collecting and effectively disseminating crucial details in real time. Without a command post, there was no way to ensure that police stacked up inside the hallway had the information they needed to make the right decisions.
No one performed the basic function that's needed in an incident such as this, to take command and control over the situation.
Chief Arredondo himself told other officers to wait, even as crucial minutes were ticking away. He later said he was trying to get the rest of the building cleared before they breached the classroom.
Cameras on our side right now.
Meanwhile, Chloe is still on the line with 911. It's been about 12 minutes since she first called.
Please help. My teacher is supposed to die.
That information should have been taken in by the call taker, should have been immediately relayed to the incident commander, who should have used that information to understand that this was still an active shooter event.
Inside classroom 112, Chloe is doing everything she can to survive. Skills her father, Ruben Torres, a Marine, taught Chloe and her siblings.
We've spoken about things like this happening around our nation, give them scenarios, what would they do, you know.
Chloe even made the difficult decision to cover herself with blood, the blood of those injured inside her classroom, to make it look like she was shot.
To put the blood on her, you know, I find it amazing, you know, that my 10-year-old at that time, just thought about that.
The entire time, officers are just feet away, guns drawn, nearly 15 minutes since Chloe first called.
They're inside of the building, okay? You need to stay quiet, okay?
They're inside the building. You just need to stay quiet. Come immediately. 112.
Whether or not Chief Arredondo knew of Chloe's calls is unclear, but the city of Uvalde's top police officer on the scene did know of Chloe's call, indicating that children were trapped inside the classroom.
There's victims in the room with him. A child on the phone, multiple victims. A child just called if they have victims in there. Call 911.
Lieutenant Mariano Vargas, the acting Uvalde City Police Chief that day, is also seen on body cam, stepping outside to call a police landline to ask about Chloe's 911 calls.
The call that you got in from one of the students, what did they say?
Okay, it's gonna be Chloe. She's in room 112, Mariano 112.
So how many are still alive now?
8 to 9 are still alive.
But Vargas later tells investigators he cannot recall these details.
What about 911 calls that were being made to dispatch? Did you hear any radio traffic regarding that? Mariano, do you know?
I don't remember. I really don't. I remember somebody saying that I thought there was a kid calling dispatch that he was inside.
Okay. Okay. Did you happen to relay that information to anybody else by any chance or anything? Do you recall?
And I'm almost sure I did, to the people that were lined up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so much stuff happened. It's hard to remember every detail.
Surveillance video captures the gunman firing 4 more rounds. Chief Arredondo tries yet again to negotiate through the wall with the gunman, who never responds.
I heard that twice, and like the first time I was like, okay, they're here, they're gonna help us. And then they just stayed quiet, and I thought that they left. They left us here.
Finally, 47 minutes after Chloe placed her first call to 911 and 77 minutes after the gunman stepped foot inside Robb Elementary, officers from the Border Patrol Tactical Unit decide the wait is over. At 12:50 p.m., they breach the classroom.
I knew that there was going to be more shots, and so I just closed my eyes really tight and just, pray for the best.
The Border Patrol officers see the gunman in the corner, shooting toward them, and they return fire.
Subject down, subject down.
The gunman is dead, 77 minutes after entering Robb Elementary. He would later be identified as 18-year-old Salvador Ramos, a former student at the school who, investigators say, had been spiraling downward in the months prior. The shooting took place in his former 4th grade classroom. Teacher Arnie Reyes in room 111 was shot twice in his arm and his back, and he's bleeding profusely.
They don't know how they're gonna take me to the hospital. Everything's blocked, everything's, a mess out there.
A chaotic medical response that also comes under criticism, as some survivors, like teacher Arnie, are dragged outside, while others are triaged inside the building. Inside room 112, Chloe Torres, that brave 10-year-old girl who made those 911 calls, is alive, along with 9 classmates. But so many others are not. Desperate parents are sent to the Civic Center, a reunification headquarters for families. Gloria Cáceres has her niece rush there, desperately searching for Jackie.
And she just, she's not here, she's not here.
Gloria's niece heads to the hospital and then calls with news.
She's like, I saw her. It's like, I saw her. They took her out in an ambulance. Like, I saw her. And so I just remember telling my husband and trying to get to the hospital as fast as we could.
And in a way that's a little hopeful, right? That she's maybe alive.
Yes. We waited hours, and there was a chaplain and 2 rangers that came looking for us. And so I asked, is she alive? And one of the rangers just looked at me and said, no, she's not.
9-year-old Jackie Cáceres did not survive. Captured on her mother Gloria's phone is that photo at the award ceremony that morning, taken just 35 minutes before the gunman entered the school.
It's Jackie, Eliana, Lexi, Layla, and Nave. Those are all victims.
They all died.
Yes.
On May 24, 2022, at Robb Elementary School here in Uvalde, Texas, 19 students and 2 teachers never came home. Not a single one of the 11 students in teacher Arnie Reyes' classroom survived.
It was hard. It was hard.
The first hours and days after the shooting were marked by a series of misstatements and inaccuracies by officials.
The teacher runs to room 132 to retrieve a phone, and that same teacher walks back to the exit door, and door remains propped open.
I said, he's lying. That's a lie.
You knew he was blaming you.
Yes.
Even though Amy Marin was not named.
It was presumed at the moment that that was how the subject got in. Well, when the video was enhanced, it was obvious that same teacher went back and kicked the rock outside the door, okay, and the door closed. Now, she had a reason to believe and believed that the door was locked, but the door was not locked.
McCraw later apologized publicly to Amy Marin, and the people of Uvalde watched as officials initially obscured the missteps of law enforcement.
They showed amazing courage by running toward gunfire for the singular purpose of trying to save lives.
And at that same press conference,
they did contain him in the classroom, and they put the tactical stack together, in a very orderly way, and of course breached.
And then, day by day, the facts start to change, and information is walked back.
There's some new information as of Tuesday that I wanted to clear up.
Governor Abbott and McCraw eventually said they were misled by local officials.
The idea that this was an heroic and well done and an effective and efficient operation was not the case. And when we determined that it was not the case, we reported otherwise.
It was time to deliver answers to the people of Uvalde.
Eva Guzman, a former justice of the Texas Supreme Court, served on the investigative committee formed because of concern that the public was not getting a true account of events at Robb. The committee points to Diaz Street, where the gunman lived just blocks away from Robb Elementary with his grandparents, because less than 10 minutes before the attacker crashed that truck in the ravine outside the school, he shot his own grandmother at home.
Diaz Street will forever, I think, remain embedded in the minds of Uvalde citizens as the place where this tragedy began.
The attacker messages an acquaintance. I just shot my grandma in her head, and I'ma go shoot up an elementary school right now. An online acquaintance in Germany responds, cool. He then steals his grandmother's truck, and the grandmother seeks help.
Her reaction was not to call 911, it was to run across the street to a neighbor.
In fact, a 911 call from Diaz Street doesn't come in until nearly 15 minutes after the attacker shot his grandmother and when he's already inside the school.
Anytime there is criminal activity this close to a school, there ought to be an effort to immediately notify the school.
But because of that delay, neither police nor Robb Elementary knew about the shooting in time.
Those 7 to 9 minutes could have made a difference. We'll never know. It'll always be a what if.
The committee raised questions about the law enforcement response to Diaz Street and why Uvalde County Sheriff Ruben Nolasco appeared on this scene, stayed, and was delayed in arriving to the Robb Elementary attack.
EMS.
Okay. Who did this to you? Who's your grandson?
Diaz Street is shrouded in mystery. What time did the sheriff get there? How long did it take him to get there? Did he or anyone else on that scene make an immediate effort to locate the shooter?
And inside the school, it turns out there were distinct opportunities to breach the classroom that were missed.
I'm certain I heard him reload. I did hear that at one time. I don't know if there was a second.
If a law enforcement officer hears a suspect reloading their firearm, it should say two things to that officer. One, that the threat is not over, and two, that may be an opportunity to immediately breach and engage.
And there were other failures and missteps. Time spent hunting for keys to the classroom door that had been reported broken and never fixed. It could have been opened without a key.
In terms of crystallizing the events of the day, it's hard to say that there was one moment, and yet It's all about moments. We know that if there had not been these systemic failures, that if one person had responded differently at any moment, maybe the outcome could have been different.
Less than 24 hours after the attack, during an interview with investigators, Arredondo explains his decisions that day.
We're going to get scrutinized. I'm expecting that. We're going to get scrutinized why we didn't go in there. I know what the firepower he had based on what shells I saw, the holes in the wall in the room next to his. I also know I had students that were around there that weren't the immediate threat besides the ones that I know were the immediate threat. And the preservation of life around, everything around him, I felt was priority, because I know there was probably victims in there, and with the shots I heard, I know it's probably somebody who's going to be deceased. I know these weren't.
In law enforcement, you can't assume that they're not going to survive. You have to assume that they could have survived if you get in there immediately and address the threat.
In total, 376 law enforcement officers responded to the attack on Robb Elementary that day.
We failed to prevent it from happening. And I say failed, and I said we, and I said the law enforcement community, because collectively we did.
The Texas Rangers under Steve McCraw at the Texas Department of Public Safety have completed their initial investigation, which is now honing in on culpability and possible criminal charges. A final version of the report will go to the Uvalde County District Attorney.
We have one chance to get this right, and it is very important for the decision to prosecute to be based on all of the evidence.
The investigation is examining the actions of every law enforcement officer who responded that day. And sources tell ABC News the focus is on the law enforcement leadership who were there that day and the decisions made in the critical first moments.
Based on that information, we can make an intelligent decision about what crimes may have been committed.
It may take even more months to learn whether any law enforcement officials might be charged with crimes for what happened on May 24th, 2022. But the top lawman in Texas says it's a real possibility.
My belief is there's possible criminal culpability. Certainly there's malfeasance committed that particular day. And from our standpoint, looking at every officer and looking internally at our own officers, is that, what did they know? When did they hear? When did they arrive? What did they do at that point in time?
All questions that continue to haunt Uvalde, especially teacher Arnie Reyes.
I'm furious. They have all the tactical gear, bulletproof vests, guns. They had all of that. I have a pencil. It's not the same battle.
Today, Arnie is still struggling to heal.
Well, physically, if you looked at me, you probably thought I went to war. I look at my arm, and of course, it's a constant reminder of what happened that day.
Chloe, the 10-year-old girl who made all those 911 calls while the shooter went back and forth between the classrooms, tells investigators afterwards just how she survived.
I remember telling everybody that we're going to get through this and just don't make a sound, just be as quiet as a mouse.
Chloe is now in counseling, but has not returned to school.
She does have survivor's guilt. I hate to say it, but like, she really don't care anymore, like, about doing the little things that she used to do, you know? She just wants to be stuck at home.
Alongside many of the other victims' families, Jackie Cáceres' family is channeling their grief into pushing for stronger gun control laws.
Not everybody agrees on an assault weapons ban, but that's why we want to reach a compromise, meet in the middle, and raise the age to 21 to buy an assault weapon.
The Cáceres were recently briefed on the autopsy report for their daughter. They say from what they know, it appears to show that Jackie was shot in one of the gunman's final barrage of shots before the breach, while all those officers were standing in the hallways.
Because of her injury, she would have bled out quickly. And if she was shot at the very beginning, then she wouldn't have had a pulse at the end of the 77 minutes. And she did. She was still alive.
What does that tell you?
So that for sure tells me that if the cops would have gone in when they should have, then my daughter would still be here with me today.
The consequences of police inaction at the scene, that is really the whole point of the investigation, and that would be part of what's presented to the grand jury.
I love it. It's perfect. It's perfect.
What keeps you going?
Just seeking justice for our daughter and for those kids and the teachers. Because I can't see my future. I can't even see tomorrow or next week.
We've seen that hashtag written, remember their names. What does that mean to you, Javier?
In my mind, they're trying to drag this out so people will forget their names and get it over with and move on. But no, we're not gonna let that happen. There's no way.
We don't want them ever to be forgotten. And definitely we're not gonna let that happen.
Alicia Ramirez, Anabel Rodriguez,
Nave Bravo,
McKenna Elrod,
Jose Flores Jr., Ellie Garcia, Irma Garcia,
Uzziah Garcia, Amory Jo Garza, Xavier Lopez, Jace Luevanos,
Jess Mata, Miranda Mathis,
Eva Mireles,
Maite Rodriguez, Lexi Rubio,
Leila Salazar, Sheila Sigüero,
Eliana Torres, Rogelio Torres, and my baby girl Jackie. Jackie Cousins.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.